Sorry, guys, we disconnected from Dreams Part One. So if you're joining us on this after the end of that first live video where I disconnect and Dowsu's having to sit there on the phone and talk to me and everything, so hopefully you will rejoin us for this second episode. We're going to continue to talk about dreams for a little while longer, so we can cover a few more things, and we'll probably go off on tangents and shit. But we're gonna do a little bit longer because this is fun to us. Anyway, welcome back. Um, and you said you got to where, my brother?
I completed the second paragraph of Generation,
Of generation. Oh,
right
okay.
below neurophysiology. So I think,
We'll just say this. Dreams present a running narrative rather than exclusively visual imagery. Following their work with split brain subjects, Gazaniga and Ledoux postulated, without attempting to specify the neural mechanisms, a left brain interpreter that seeks to create a plausible narrative from whatever electrochemical signals reach the brain's left hemisphere. So that's interesting. They're saying that. Let me read this sentence again. So they're not talking about any neural mechanisms or any neurons or anything. They're just saying a left brain interpreter that seeks to create a plausible narrative from whatever chemical signals reach the brain's left hemisphere. Um, why is that not giving it? That's a weird sentence. Well, let me work this. I'm sorry, to guys. My apologies. That's an interesting take, but that's a weird sentence. Sleep research has determined that some brain regions fully activate or active during waking are. I'm about to get really mad at Wikipedia right now because these sentences are terrible. Sleep research has determined that some brain regions that are fully active during waking are REM sleep, activated only in a partial or fragmentary way.
ah,
Do you see that sentence I'm talking about?
yeah, so let me try. Um, Sleep research has determined that some brain regions fully active during waking are, during REM sleep, activated only in a partial or fragmentary way. So I think he's trying to say that um, parts of your brain that are fully on during while you're awake will be just partially on when you're in REM sleep. Mhm.
Sorry, I was getting a phone call. God damn, everything that can possibly happen to interrupt is happening.
So
So that sentence is saying what again? Get me back on track.
it says um, that the parts of your brain, not all of them, but some of the parts of your brain that are on while you're awake are partially on while you're in REM sleep.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Drawing on this knowledge, textbook author James W. Calat explains a dream represents the brain's effort to make sense of sparse and distorted information. The cortex combines this haphazard input with whatever other activity was already occurring and does its best to synthesize a story that makes sense of the information.
Yeah.
That's juicy. I have to read that in my head now. A
Yeah.
dream represents the brain.
Yeah. He's saying the brain is making a story for itself. Um, a dream, let's read that together again. A dream represents the brain's effort to make sense of sparse and disordered information. So it's grasping at straws, trying to make a narrative for itself. It's saying the cortex combines the random input with whatever other activity was already occurring and does its best to synthesize a story that makes sense of all that random information, that haphazard information, as he put it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, my dreams do get pretty random sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And we're struggling to make a narrative of that. Is what this is what um, what's his name, James W. Collott is saying. He's saying that we're trying to make sense of random information that we get. It's not random. I mean, I'm sure there's some deterministic mechanism, but we're getting like he says, haphazard's a good way to put it. We're getting haphazard input, and we're making a narrative about that input. And I think that's a lot of what neuroscientists say is happening. What do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, the split brain study is pretty cool. I mean, we're not usually, because I think the split brain study talks about the hemisphere
Bifurcation.
bifurcation. Yeah,
Yep.
where they like separate the two hemispheres of your brain.
Hmm.
And I mean, we're not normally like that. That like I have a bunch of communication, so it might be less separate than what they're seeing, but I can't argue with that. At some, like, I think that's how the brain works anyway. Like, I think that there's some, I don't know if it's exclusively left right, because I think I've read stuff that it's a little more complex than just the left hemisphere doing, like, what you learned in school was like the left hemisphere controls the right side of your body, and
Hmm.
it's like does the art, and the right side
Hmm.
does the math. And I think that that's
Well,
pretty
there's all
common.
stuff. There's all kinds of stuff with the split brain patients who like have atheists on one side and like a religious person on the other. There's been a lot of studies on split brain. Severing the corpus callosum and not allowing them to directly interact to where you can have that brain hemisphere synchronization. I would imagine that you're literally creating two different people if you don't have that corpus callosum attached. I don't know though. I mean, a lot of this is just from what I've read. So.
And then one of them is like non-verbal too, but it can write, so it's not incapable of
Mm-hmm.
language. It just doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
control.
Yep.
But I also get the at least the feeling that there's part of my brain that doesn't exactly have a narrative, that isn't producing a narrative, that's like not necessarily linguistic. And so that may, I don't know, it just makes a lot of sense to me that there's like something happening, and then there's some other parts of my brain that are like trying to make that into a cohesive story.
You think that's all it is?
Well, I think that I don't think it's random at all. I think the parts of my brain that are spewing stuff, I think they're spewing it, like it's spewing it with like it, if it doesn't have a narrative of why it's doing it, if it's a non-narrative part of
No,
my
I would
brain.
say that we make the narrative up trying to understand it.
Yeah, but that I think it's doing something, and it's like a biological process that's playing out in some intended way,
Mm-hmm.
but not necessarily narrative. It's not like trying to warn you that your aunt's cheating on her husband or something necessarily. Although that might be what you get out of it. I don't know.
Yep. No, I
Is
mean that's. I just there could be more to it than just us making sense of the quote unquote random information. Um, but it could also be more than that. I just don't know what else it would be. Um, since we can only have our own experience, we are experiencing a dream, and then that interpretation is always going to be distorted. And I don't know. It's very difficult to say that that's all that happens is just a dream is representing the narrative of all this distorted information. I'm just kind of talking it through with myself because I want to think that there might be more to dreams than what we already know about it. That it's not just a neurological problem. I'm not saying anything mystical, but like, something cool and quantum that's happening. Uh, something that would surprise me.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
would,
I think it tends to go the intuition route, where it's not. I don't think it's quantum. Well, I mean, I mean, outside of the chance that our brain is quantum
I'm pretty
computing.
sure our brain is quantum. I mean, everything is. The air that you're speaking with right now is made up of quantum shit,
Yeah, but like,
particles, all that.
is it using the the state of a particle to compute something? Is it using like the quantum mechanisms to do computing at all, or store
Is it doing
information?
quantum? What are we talking about doing quantum computing?
The brain.
Oh, well, I mean, I would imagine that if quantum computing is happening, that's the only place it's going to be happening is in a brain.
Maybe it definitely has a head start on
Oh, I
other
mean,
things.
not quantum. I said that wrong. I'm sorry. I said that wrong. Yes, of course, there's quantum computers that are. All I'm saying is that everything is quantum, and you can make any quantum system. Technically, you can turn any quantum system into a quantum computer. I know there's way more to it than that. Please
Uh,
don't attack me.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying that to the audience. Be easy on me.
I was thinking you had a Roger Penrose moment there.
Yeah, well, I mean that's orchestrated objective reduction, where they think the quantum interactions in a neuron, those things working together in some way, cause consciousness to emerge, or cause consciousness in general. I don't know if they want to consider it emergent or not, but
Mm.
yeah, I mean there is quantum interactions going on in each neuron because neurons are cells and cells are made up of atoms and atoms are made up of particles. So at that level, everything is just a soup. It's an ocean. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I usually wax poetic and say these things about the quantum. I'm not trying to say there's anything mystical. It's a realm of probabilities. Some people would say a determined realm of probabilities, but um, I'm trying to think of any other way that a dream could be seen in neuroscience other than the brain just making up shit to make sense of what it experienced in the dream. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to spitball here.
The only other thing I can think of is like just an entity within you trying to communicate something, but it's not necessarily connected to some larger web of everything that's doing that outside of in like a math sense or something maybe.
No, this is the place to be wild. Don't
Oh,
be
I
don't
gotta
be
be
fooled about
wild.
the wild
I'm
ideas.
supposed to be wild.
Yeah, we can be wild as we want to. That's why I'm talking, dude. I'm a fucking scientist son of a bitch, and I'm sitting here talking about consciousness fields and all this kind of stuff. So
All right, if I'm
talking
going
about
with
talking
wild,
about dream internet and shit.
I mean, I think if I want to go wild, where I go is just how irrational things are actually. Like I just escape, like I go to the escape the phenomenology button, which doesn't really work, but it seems to me like if it did, we'd be escaping all the phenomenology, which would include rationality and logic and the idea of physical things and non-physical things,
Dreaming.
dreaming. Yeah, all of that goes out the window.
Yep.
And yeah, and I think that that's where I like everything is a dream in comparison to the noumena. That's where I go with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. But the noumena is forever out of our reach because we can't take ourselves outside of our own phenomena. We can't say, okay, fuck you senses, let's see what's out there. You know what I mean? Um, so neuroscientist Indre Viscontis was even more blunt and he said a dream content is just the result of your interpreter trying to create a story out of random neural signals. So
But then,
that's that's the neuroscientific take.
like, why does everything dreams? I don't think it's that random. I think there's got to be a survival benefit if just about everything
Well,
dreams.
we know REM sleep rejuvenates us in ways. I don't know exactly all of those ways right now, but we know that without REM sleep, we'd slowly start driving in ourselves into hallucinogenic madness.
Maybe it's like defragmenting.
Yeah, like defragmenting a hard drive. That's a good way to look at it.
You're just kind of like it's a bunch of
Yeah.
random nonsense that you're reorganizing
Mm-hmm.
into something cohesive, and then you can go about your day.
Yep. Let's see. Theories on function, rapid eye movement. Oh, this is onerology. Okay. So, for many humans across multiple eras and cultures, dreams are believed to have functioned as revealers of truth sourced during sleep from gods, or like we talked about earlier. Ancient Egyptians believed that dreams were the best way to receive divine revelation, and thus they would induce dreams. They went to sanctuaries and slept on special dream beds in hopes of receiving advice, comfort, or healing from the gods. From a Darwinian perspective, dreams would have to fulfill some kind of biological requirement, or provide some benefit from natural selection to take place, or at least have no negative impact on survival fitness. So all of that is true. From a Darwinian perspective, dreams seem to fulfill some kind of biological requirement. You know, the need to recharge ourselves during REM, um, provide some benefit for natural selection to take place. I'm sure that people who were deprived of sleep probably died a lot more. You know, and I'm sure that dreams didn't have a negative impact on fitness because it just meant that you were more well rested in REM sleep. So I agree with all of those stipulations. A physician from Hamburg was was the first who suggested that dreams are a need and that they have the function to erase sensory impressions that were not fully quote unquote worked up and ideas that were not fully developed during the day. What do you think about that? Elsie?
Uh, I'm processing it.
Oh, sorry. Thought I lost you. My bad.
They have a function to erase the. I mean, that sounds kind of like the defragmenting thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, erase sensory impressions that were not fully worked up or ideas that were not fully developed during the day. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's like a simulation living out uh, ideas that you haven't fully fleshed out.
Although I just had such weird dreams that that's hard to say is the case all the time. Like,
Yeah, I don't think some of mine were so abstract and weird that had nothing to do with anything in my life, you
and
know?
also reoccurring dreams. Like, recently I've been having a reoccurring dream with like a house, and it's the same house, but I'm there in a different context. But I swear it has the same makeup, same room. There's hidden rooms, and I always know right where they are, and I can go to them.
Yeah.
But like the context is always different. So maybe it's doing that a little bit, but why am I always in the same house? Like I don't
I
live
don't
there.
know. I mean, the recurring dream thing is a mystery to me too. I mean, what do you think that's from?
What do I think it's about?
Yeah, what's your idea?
I mean, I'd guess it's just like a brain, like same way a memory works. It's just like a brain structure that's really built in there, and you end up exploring it in your dream somehow. But maybe it's the memory, that specific area of your brain is lighting up in the dream. But with something like that, where it's a house that maybe it's made up of a bunch of different houses, and or like a bunch of different feelings from different houses, maybe.
Hmm.
But it seems like it has some consistency. Like it's always the same.
Maybe the houses are a metaphor.
It's a metaphorical house.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
there could
like
be
dream
a
interpretation.
myriad of different ways of interpreting why you thought about that. Could have been something random from your day or something you thought about 10 years ago.
Sometimes the house is dirty. Sometimes the house was recently lived in, and sometimes it's abandoned. Maybe I'm the house and I'm abandoned. It's another abandonment dream. No, I don't know.
Are you the house that's well kept up or are you the house that's like dilapidated?
Clean up your room.
Clean up your room.
Clean up your room. The
The
metaphorical
metaphorical
construct.
substrate. That's what we're doing is we're tapping into the metaphorical substrate, which is the internet of the universe. Haha, I win. That's what we're doing. That's what it is. All right, end of show.
You just proved Jordan Peterson.
It's all correct through JP. Um, that's interesting that people used to go to sanctuaries and sleep on dream beds. That's I want to sleep on a dream bed. What was that? Just like a big fat ass couch in like gold plated sanctuaries. I don't know.
It's
I'm
an
being
eight
weird.
thousand dollar purple mattress from the
Yeah.
company Purple.
So let's jump. I'm gonna say Freud, whose dream studies focused on interpreting dreams, not explaining how or why humans dream. He disputed Robert's hypothesis. He proposed that dreams preserve sleep by representing fulfilled wishes that otherwise would awaken the dreamer. Freud wrote that dreams, quote, serve the purpose of prolonging sleep instead of waking up, end quote. I don't know about that. I don't know about that because you can be woken up in any type of sleep, in any level. Are they called sleep levels? Or are they called, what are they called? They're called stages, sleep stages, right?
Stages of sleep.
Stages,
Yeah, deep
phases.
sleep. I mean, maybe like early in the morning when I first wake up and I'm dreaming, and I want to go back to the dream, but like,
Yeah, that's. I guess you were coming out of REM and then maybe going back in it. I don't know the stages of sleep well enough to comment, so that's something we'll have to cover in the future. But
it doesn't make sense that it'd be for more sleep, just considering that.
yeah, I don't understand Freud's idea there. Um, let's see. A turning point in theorizing about dream function came in 1953 when Science, which was a publication, uh, published the Ezerniski and Kleitman paper establishing REM sleep as a distinct phase of sleep and linking dreams to REM sleep. Okay, so before this, we didn't really know that. Until and even after the publications of the Solms 2000 paper that certified the separability of REM sleep and the dream phenomena, many studies purporting to uncover the function of dreams have in fact been studying not dreams but measurable REM sleep. That's interesting.
Huh.
That certified the separability of REM sleep. Okay, I don't understand. Okay, so theories of dream function since the identif. Oh, I see what it's saying here. Theories of dream function since the identification of REM sleep include, and it gives a bunch of different examples. There's Hobson and McCarley's 1977 activation synthesis hypothesis, which proposed a functional role for dreaming sleep in promoting some aspect of the learning process. In 2010, a Harvard study was published showing experimental evidence that dreams were correlated with improved learning. So maybe it's to learn something.
Hmm.
We can teach ourselves new insights into things, maybe. Maybe
Yeah.
not any new information, but new insight to be gained on the information, right? Or wrong.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing the next one is Crick and Mitchison's 1983 idea of reverse learning, where they basically sounds like dreams are cleaning up. Sounds like defragmenting again,
Yeah, I see that now.
which would
Looks
also
like we're
kind of
finding a lot of that cleaning up, defragmenting, reverse learning, as Crick's saying. What does the next guy say? Hartman's 1995 proposal that dreams serve as quasi therapeutic function, enabling the dreamer to process trauma in a safe place. I mean, that makes sense for sure.
hmm,
But not all dreaming is therapeutic. You have nightmares too.
yeah. Dreams can traumatize you. You can
Yeah,
be
dreams can absolutely
afraid to
traumatize
go
you.
to bed because of that nightmare. Threat simulation. So
Yeah, that's what I'm looking
Revon's
at. Revanoso's 2000 threat simulation hypothesis, whose premise is that during much of human evolution, physical and interpersonal threats were serious, duh, giving reproductive advantage to those who survived them. Dreaming aided survival by replicating these threats and providing the dreamer with practice in dealing with them. Ah, so it's linked with imagination, the ability to teach yourself something, uh, kind of like play fighting in your dream. That's interesting. In 2015, he proposed social simulation theory, which describes dreams as a simulation for training social skills and bonds.
I could see that. I mean, earlier I was talking about how I think most of my dreams are me driving and practicing driving.
Yep, that's pretty dope. There's just a couple more here. Let's see. There's Eagleman's and Vaughn's 2021 paper, Defensive Activation Theory, which says that given the brain's neuroplasticity, dreams evolved as a visual hallucinatory activity during sleep's extended periods of darkness, busying the occipital lobe and thereby protecting it from possible appropriation by other non vision sense operations. So that just sounds like it helps the person stay asleep. Is that what you're hearing there too?
I was hearing that it's because it's talking about appropriation by other non-vision sense operations, and I know that our bodies are like have a lot of competition, and like if you go blind, other parts of your brain can use your optical brain part of your
Yeah, you
brain
can become
for
stimulated out of sleep, right?
stimulated out of sleep. Yeah,
Like
yeah, but I'm
what it says at the very end is busying the occipital lobe and thereby protecting it from possible appropriation by other non-vision sense operations.
yeah, so I'm
Okay, so
thinking
maybe not like a visual thing. Okay, so is it saying, what do you think it's saying?
I'm thinking it's saying that like it prevents other parts of your brain from overwrite like using your seeing part of your brain and thus kind of like co-opting some of its usefulness. So like your visual center stays working so that it doesn't fall out of use because like if you go blind, your visual part of your brain will get co-opted by like your hearing, so you'll
Okay,
be able to like echo. You'll have like echolocate. You have
yeah.
blind people who can do
And I guess you
echolocation.
have to busy the occipital lobe because that's where, a lot of the thought goes on. Um, Hilariously enough, the occipital lobe is what is triggered when you take benzodiazepines like Xanax or Klonopin, which I'm prescribed to deal with anxiety. So it slows that interaction down. That's why it helps sleep a lot. But that's interesting. Dreams evolved as a visual hallucinatory activity during sleep's extended periods of darkness, busying the occipital lobe and thereby protecting it from possible appropriation by other non-vision sense operations. That's the part that confuses me, is when it says possible appropriation by other non-vision sense operations. It's talking about touch and smell and obviously those. But what you
Yeah,
said kind of makes sense too. So I guess we'll leave it at that.
I mean, I'm coming from because I watch a lot of biology stuff, but not necessarily neurology stuff, and it's coming from like I saw a video where a biologist was explaining that during like when you're a fetus during development in the womb, your organs become like choose to become what organs they become or to choose to become skin by competition. They compete with all these other cells and get
Uh-huh.
pushed into a specific region that forces them to become a skin cell instead of a liver cell or whatever.
Yeah.
And that just kind of reminded me of that old video, and I'm thinking like, yeah, that makes sense because also like an injured person, you'll start using that part of your brain to do other calculations and stuff.
Yeah.
Also kind of a guess.
No, it's okay. It's just your interpretation. When I read this again, what it's saying to me is that for sleep's extended periods of time while it was dark, we had to busy the occipital lobe from thinking, or it might have woken up from other sense operations, appropriated by other sense
Mm.
operations. So I'm assuming that in some way this shows that sleep was necessary to busy the thought in order to not be awoken by other stimuli like touching or things like that. But I could be
Oh,
wrong. I
kind
could
of
be wrong
sounds
about what
like
it's saying.
the helps us sleep theory, where it's except it sounds more like it's distracting our occipital lobe so
Well,
that
that's why it's called defensive activation theory.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Although I mean that fits my interpretation too. And given the brain's neuroplasticity, see that's what makes me think that it's talking about like the not losing, like not being taken over or co-opted by some other
Yeah.
region of the brain because it's talking
Yeah.
about
No, I get that
neuroplasticity.
too. You're right. Okay, so I'm still not 100% on this, but I will take it as it is because if I talk about it anymore, I'll just confuse myself. No,
Yeah,
I appreciate your explanation is great. You did a good job breaking it
we'd
down.
have to like look it up specifically and try
Yeah,
to.
I'm gonna have to go and look up Eagleman's and Vaughn's paper from 2021 and see if I can't understand if they mean it was a hallucinatory activity in order for you not to be bothered by other senses, or if it's like you said. I'm not sure. So it's defensive activation theory is the only really but then you, as you brought up, the neuroplasticity there kind of changes what the sentence means. So anyway,
Yeah, I think
one
so.
last one to read. Eric Hole proposes, based on artificial neural networks, that dreams prevent overfitting to past experiences. That is, they enable the dreamer to learn from novel situations. So, this is us talking about learning new information and encountering new situations in a dream that are completely novel that you've never experienced before. I don't know if that's possible, so we won't go back into that. We argued that for a while earlier. Um,
Yeah,
I tell you what, how long have we been going? My mouth's getting tired. We've gone 30 minutes.
yeah,
I tell
hour
you,
30.
the rest of it, guys, if you want to go look at it, go to Wikipedia, go down to interpretation, and see if you can follow along where we were about to go. And we may cover this again. I actually think I do want to come back to this, so we may have a Dreams Part 3. But there's a lot more to cover. And there's, of course, other articles as well in like Scientific American. And you can find physics.org. You can find all kinds of information on dreams across the net. There's so many different psychology websites that deal with talking about dreams and talking about imagination and all that. Just go look it up. But next time we'll probably come back in on interpretation of dreams, talk about Carl Jung a little bit. We'll talk about Freud. We'll talk about images and literature and dreams, lucid dreaming, um, and we'll talk about just some miscellaneous things. And we may finish up with the dream part 3. But at least we did a part 2 to fix my fuck up earlier when my internet disconnected. Thank you guys for hanging through that with me. Thank Dao Su, my best friend over here, for being with us tonight because I love him. He is a lovely human being.
I love you too, Thomas.
I love you as very much. Um, so, guys, appreciate you sticking with us. Appreciate you sticking through the technical difficulties. And all I can say is we love you always. Come back and see us next time. Bye.